So, if you've been following my Twitter feed, sorry, my bangs drive me insane. If you've been following my Twitter feed, you've probably seen me talking a lot about what a horrible place that I lived in before and how happy I am to be in my new apartment. And I wanted to actually explain just how bad the situation I was in. And some of it is because of the fact that I'm disabled. The biggest issues that I run into with dealing with people is the fact that I have neuropathy, which is a severe form, which has caused brain damage. I don't seem like I have brain damage until you talk to me for a bit. I'll forget what I'm saying in the middle of a sentence. I've developed this really weird dyslexia where I can't even like put in 4 numbers in my phone as a confirmation code. I've literally had to have people do it for me because my brain is just so scrambled with letters and numbers. Basically, my short-term memory is shot to hell. So I ended up last year getting fired when I asked for an accommodation for the brain damage because I was working slower, in part because of the problems with my short-term memory, but also because of the fact that all of the new hires were being trained horribly and they were sending me absolute garbage that I couldn't understand. And even when I pointed out the issues that I was having with the data that I was being provided, my manager couldn't even understand what was being sent to me. And since they refused to improve the training and I was still struggling so mightily, the only thing I could think to do was ask for an accommodation for my brain damage so I would at least have more time to try to figure out what the fuck was going on with all of the garbage I was being sent. Well, they decided to fire me instead. When I specifically asked where I had not completed my job responsibilities, they couldn't point to it. They just said that they would not accommodate my disability and made no effort to do so. As a result of this, I was able to get a 1-year payout for both my salary and for COBRA payments since they manually canceled my insurance on a Saturday. They fired me on a Friday, and by Saturday they had manually canceled the insurance that I had already paid via my paycheck to fill out the month. They were vindictive assholes. That's pretty much why I recorded them firing me, and I had lawyers who told me that really I should have gone with a full EEOC lawsuit, but I simply didn't have the money or the time to spend years fighting with them. So the whole thing was I was supposed to get a year of salary and insurance to help me apply for SSDI and have enough to live off of until I could get that. The reason that I'm bringing this up is because technically I do not have a job even though I have income. So I had to literally go through 4 different apartment complexes until I could find one that I could convince that I would be able to pay rent for at least a year. Even though I had no job, I was able to show them that I had monthly income from an outside source, my W-2s, and I eventually ended up literally having to send my legal document to the apartment complex. But the point of the matter is I finally found one that actually accepted that as proof that I could make rent. And to give you an idea of how ridiculous this has been, I've been hoarding money because I know that I don't have a job and I don't have a way to make. I would love to work again, but I don't see any company hiring somebody who has no short-term memory and would need to have something explained 7 times for it to maybe sink in. So at any rate, it's been an uphill against the wind climb, even with me offering to pay a year in advance. I was still declined by multiple apartment complexes. At any rate, so this is part of the reason that I ended up spending 4 or 5 months in an apartment complex where I was paying $1,100 a month for roaches to fall on me. If you've seen any of the photos of my apartment as I have moved in, you will see that I am an absolute organizational neat freak. I have really bad OCD. I have problems remembering where things are. So the only way I can deal with that is to have systems where I know exactly where everything goes and everything is organized to within an inch of its life. I also can't really cook because I have cysts in my spine and hip. So doing things like standing for any amount of time is agony. So the apartment complex that I was living at refused to fix the roach problem, kept blaming it on me, even though I literally took everything out of my kitchen and the cabinets and I said, you can go ahead, you can bomb, you can spray, you can do whatever. I literally lived for months with everything in my kitchen in storage boxes in the middle of my living room because I was trying to accommodate them to let them deal with the roach problem. It got so bad it started to spread to the bedroom, which is the only place that they really didn't go. And I would wake up with roaches on me. I had them fall on me multiple times. And a couple weeks before I ended up moving out, I just randomly found dead bees all over the apartment. Every effort that I made to get this fixed, I was gaslit by the apartment complex. At one point, they literally shouted me out of the office when I threatened to show online all of the photos of drawers, every single drawer in the kitchen, and most of the cabinets filled with roach corpses and just debris, poop from the roaches, shedding of shells, whatever. It was unlivable. I still, even though I've been out of that apartment, because I was in it for like 4 or 5 months with the roach situation, I still, if I see dark things or movement, assume it's a bug. It's not, because I now live in a clean, nice apartment, but it's really fucked me up. I went to the corporate office that actually owns One Eaton Square, which is the place that I was living at. And one of the first things that I told them is that I have brain damage. I normally tell people that when they're dealing with me so they understand that if I repeat the same question or forget something that they just told me, they know I'm not being like difficult. It's just, I can't help it. And a few minutes later, she said, well, you should have contacted Jill about this. And I'm like, who's Jill? And she's like, you don't know who the apartment manager is? And I was like, I have brain damage. I don't remember names. And she was like, oh. And then she went back to being a bitch. So I called the regional manager. I was able to get his number when I went to corporate. And the reason I went to corporate is because I literally called their office 6 times and left voicemails and they never responded. So I called the regional manager, got no response. They finally posted an eviction note on my door. They didn't fill it out completely. Basically saying that I had X many days to pay rent or they were going to go through with legal proceedings. And I called the regional manager and I said, is there any way we can speed up these legal proceedings? I had to leave a voicemail, of course, because he didn't answer his phone because they don't do things like that. Because I want to be in front of a judge as soon as possible to show them photographs of the roaches, the bees, and the fact that they left me without heat in the middle of winter where it was 30 degrees outside for 7 days out of 9. And because of my neuropathy, I have problems with circulation, and my hands, even in gloves, were in absolute agony. Nobody ever apologized. The heater, I just gave up on trying to get to work because they'd come out every couple days, do something to it. It would work for 48 hours and then break again. I just got a space heater and gave up because I was tired of having people coming into the complex or into the apartment. When I mentioned to the front office before they shouted me out for threatening to show the public what they had been doing to me, I said, well, my heat hasn't been working for months. And she said, well, no, that's not true. And I'm like, how would you even know? And she's like, well, we can't send somebody in there because you threatened a maintenance worker. And I said, no, actually your maintenance worker was acting aggressive to me to the point that police, which is another side story, were actually concerned for my safety. And then she said, well, the police officers called us and told us that you lied to us about that. So this is the type of people that I've been dealing with. So basically, I am choosing to go to eviction court because in Oklahoma, if they evict you, they have to give you the opportunity to go in front of a judge. And when I go in front of this judge, and I know it's probably not going to do anything, but this is the only thing that I can do to maybe possibly help the other people that the complex is doing this to, because there's no way, if they're treating me like this, that they're not treating other people, is to possibly shame them in front of an Oklahoma small claims court judge. But I'm going to go in there with pictures of endless roaches, of bees, of phone calls coming out of my phone endlessly with no callbacks. And my psychiatrist has even said that, like, it's been affecting me, and we literally had to stop trying medications on me to see what we can do to improve some of my neuropathy and autism symptoms, because we both agreed that I was in such intense distress from my living conditions that it was impossible to separate what my actual symptoms were from just where I was living and how bad things were. So I am going to be going to eviction court on purpose, on the hopes that maybe possibly something good will happen for the other people who are living in that hellhole. I know that nobody's going to pay any price for it. I know that nobody's going to get in trouble. But if there's a chance that my going in front of a judge makes them more attentive to resident needs, then I feel obligated to try. During this time, I contacted basically everyone at the state that I possibly could, sorry, cat, to try to get them to help me. Tulsa Copes would say that they would help me, and then when I would actually ask them to do the things they promised, like making sure that the apartment complex was responsible, they just wanted to talk about it. And when I said, I don't need to talk about it, I already know how I feel about it, I need you to do what you said you would do, they would hang up on me. I literally called the police at one point when I had been without heat for 5 days because I was just that desperate. I didn't know what to do. I was cold, I was hurting, and the apartment complex wasn't doing anything. I called the emergency line, didn't matter. And it wasn't even like there was a situation where like the maintenance people like were overwhelmed and unavailable. They just flat out just didn't respond. And it became very clear that the heater just needed to be replaced, because if you're fixing the heater every 3 days, that means you can't fix it. It's something is internally just too far gone. So there's still a lot of other stuff going on. I'm trying to apply for Social Security disability, but even though I requested the password for my account, which you're required to have if you've ever registered for Social Security disability before, which I did a couple years ago, they have to email you the password. And this is something that started while Biden was still in office. And it's supposed to take 10 days, and I never got it. And during the 4 months that I've been waiting to move out, since I was always hoping that I would have another apartment soon, I didn't want to request the password again just to have it go to a place that I wouldn't have access to it. So now I can finally start to apply for Social Security disability, assuming that I can actually manage to get anybody at the Social Security office to answer the phone and help me. Every time I've tried to call, it's been a 2-hour hold time. I'm just going to have to wake up one morning and sit and listen to the IRS hold background music for a couple of hours and hope that somebody that I talk to on the phone can actually help me get into the Social Security system so that I can apply for SSDI. Every person who is supposed to help me hasn't. There's nobody who's been there for me. I mean, I have a good psychiatrist, I have a good doctor, and I have a good lawyer. And that's it. I don't have outside support. There are no government things to help people like me. You know, in every book, there's this thing about how you realize that you need other people to help you live. Unfortunately, if you're disabled and you don't have family and you don't have a lot of money, there is no person for you that's going to help you. You are on your own. The reason that I talk about this stuff is because I know I don't matter. It's been proven to me so many times. I got hung up on by a suicide hotline 3 times. But I don't want anybody to go through what I did. So my goal is to try to get back to writing for my Substack and to try to start talking about what I have experienced as being somebody who's actually more functional disabled than a lot of disabled people, and how challenging it is for me. I don't even know how people who don't have basically autism or something like that, to help them just be intelligent and determined and focused enough to figure out ways around things. It's just devastating to me how many people are being hurt and how much nobody cares about us. So at any rate, that is my extremely long video breakdown of a top view summary of what's been going on with my apartment complex, and I will update as I find out what's going to go on with going to court for the eviction stuff. But that's pretty much what's going on. Overview. Sorry, I don't know how to close the video correctly. Have a good one.